There is a titanium watch on this list with a case harder than the steel in a Rolex, and it costs under $1,000. There is a chronograph running the exact column wheel design that powered vintage Breitlings for $200. And there is a quartz watch so accurate it drifts less in a year than a certified Swiss chronometer is allowed to drift in a single day. None of these cost what they should. That is the whole point. 12 watches. Every one of them has a feature you would normally pay luxury money for, and every one of them found a way to hand it to you cheap. You are getting the real feature or close enough that your wrist cannot tell the difference. I am going to be straight with you the whole way through, which on this channel means two things. When a watch actually delivers, I will tell you exactly how, with real numbers. And when there is a catch, and there is almost always a catch, I will tell you that too, because a feature you do not understand the limits of is a feature that will let you down. We are going in 4 groups. Chronographs first, then True Traveler GMT watches, then exotic case materials, then the movements themselves. The prices climb a little as we go, but even the priciest watch here is a fraction of what its feature normally costs. Let us start with the stopwatch. Chronographs first. The stopwatch complication. In mechanical form, it is one of the most expensive things you can bolt onto a watch, which is exactly why the shortcuts here are so satisfying. 3 watches, 3 different ways to get the feel, the accuracy, or the actual guts of a luxury chronograph without the luxury invoice. Number 1. Seiko's meca-quartz chronographs, the SSB line, and you can find them in the low hundreds. Now, I have to correct the record before we go further because accuracy is the reason you clicked on this channel. People love to point at a cheap Seiko chronograph and call it a solar column wheel. It is neither. What actually earns its place has a better name. It is called meca-quartz. Here is what that means in plain terms. A normal quartz chronograph is all electronics. You press the pusher, a circuit fires, a stepper motor drags the hand, and it feels dead. Nothing happens under your thumb. A mechanical chronograph, the kind sitting inside a vintage Breitling, uses a physical column wheel and levers, so every press has a crisp, tactile click, and the reset snaps the hand back to 0 in an instant. That snap is the thing people fall in love with. It is also the thing that costs thousands. Meca-quartz splits the difference. Seiko builds a movement, the VK63 and its siblings, that keeps a quartz brain for timekeeping but bolts a real mechanical module onto the chronograph. So the pushers have that firm mechanical bite, and when you hit reset, the hand flies back to 0 in a single instant, exactly like the expensive stuff. And this is not some obscure caliber. It is the same meca-quartz movement that respected micro brands like Dan Henry, Brew, and Autodromo build their whole chronographs around. So you're in good company. You are getting the tactile experience of a mechanical column wheel chronograph, the part your hand actually notices, for the price of a nice dinner. And because it is quartz underneath, it holds time to about 15 seconds a month and asks for nothing but a battery every few years. Is it a real mechanical chronograph? No, and I am not going to pretend it is. A snob will tell you it is quartz and walk away. Let them. For the money, nothing gives you more of the feel for less. You are paying for how it lands under your thumb, and it lands like the real thing. And if you want the actual mechanism, the real column wheel, hand wound, the genuine article, hold that thought, because that is exactly where we are going 2 watches from now. Number 2, the Bulova Super Seville, part of the Precisionist family, and depending on whether you buy new or hunt one down, you are looking at somewhere between $350 and $700. The Millionaire feature here is the sweep. Pick up almost any quartz watch and the seconds hand ticks. 1 jump per second and your brain instantly reads cheap. The most seductive thing a luxury watch does is move its seconds hand in a smooth, gliding sweep. Grand Seiko built an entire technology called spring drive around that glide, and those start in the several thousands. A Rolex beats 8 times a second, so its hand looks almost smooth. Bulova took a different route. Standard quartz vibrates about 32,000 times a second. Bulova's Precisionist movement vibrates about 262,000 times a second. Roughly 8 times faster, and it uses that speed to drive the seconds hand 16 steps every second. To your eye, that is a sweep. It looks like it is gliding, and people who know watches do a double take when they learn it is quartz. That high frequency buys you something else. Accuracy. A normal quartz watch drifts about 15 seconds a month. The Precisionist is rated to around 10 seconds a year. That is Grand Seiko 9F territory, the gold standard for high-end quartz. In a Bulova you can buy for a few $100. So you get the visual signature people associate with a several $1,000 spring drive. The smooth gliding hand, plus accuracy most mechanical watches cannot touch. And the movement was co-developed with Citizen, which is not a coincidence because Citizen shows up later on this list with the most accurate quartz on the planet. The catch, and there is always a catch here, is that older Precisionists ran big and slabby, and the discontinued references have crept up in price as the supply dried up. Some owners also note the movement is a little louder than a standard quartz because of that high frequency. But if the smooth sweep is the thing you want, and for a lot of people it is the whole reason they buy a watch, nothing touches it at this price. Bulova even puts the same technology into dive versions and chronographs if the base dress watch is not your thing. Which brings us to the one chronograph on this list that fakes nothing at all. Number 3. The Seagull ST19 chronograph, roughly $150 to $250, and this is the real thing. Everything we just talked about was clever imitation. This is the genuine mechanism. The ST19 is a hand-wound, mechanical column wheel chronograph. And that phrase, column wheel, is the exact feature that separates a serious chronograph from a cheap one. Here is the backstory, and it is a good one. In the 1940s and 50s, Switzerland had 3 big chronograph movement makers: Lemania, Valjoux, and Venus. Venus made a column wheel caliber called the 175 that powered respected vintage chronographs, including watches from Breitling and Universal Genève. When the quartz crisis hit and Venus needed cash, they sold the entire production line, the machines, the blueprints, all of it, to a Chinese factory in Tianjin. That factory is Seagull. They have been building that same movement, upgraded and refined, ever since. Now, one correction, because I have seen this exact watch credited to vintage Omega, and that is wrong. Omega's famous chronographs ran Lemania movements, not Venus. So when someone claims the Seagull shares its guts with an old Speedmaster, they have their Swiss movement houses crossed. This is Breitling and Universal Genève lineage, and that is impressive enough without inventing an Omega connection. So what does the column wheel actually do for you? It is the little wheel that coordinates the start, stop, and reset functions. It is harder and more expensive to make than the cheaper cam system, but it gives you a smoother, more precise pusher action, and it is the mark of a properly built chronograph. The ETA 7050, the workhorse in a lot of pricier Swiss chronographs, uses the cheaper cam. This $200 Chinese watch uses the column wheel. You wind it by hand, you watch the whole thing work through a display back, and you are looking at genuine mid-century Swiss chronograph architecture for the price of a tank of gas and a nice meal. It needs servicing like any mechanical watch. And the finishing is not Geneva grade. But the mechanism is real, and the history is real. That is chronographs handled. Next, we go somewhere your watch normally has to cost $3,000 to follow you across a time zone. Segment 2. The true GMT. This is the traveler's complication. And until very recently, it was a hard wall between affordable watches and expensive ones. 3 watches just tore that wall down, and they did it with the same little movement. Number 4. The Laurier Hyperion, around $500 to $600. To explain why this matters, I have to explain the difference between a real GMT and a fake one. Because for years the affordable GMT watches were the fake kind. A GMT watch tracks a second time zone with an extra hand. Simple enough. But there are 2 ways to build it. The cheap way is called a collar, or office, GMT. The main hour hand is fixed, and you can only jump the extra 24-hour hand. That is fine if you sit at a desk and want to glance at what time it is back home. It is useless the moment you actually travel because to change your local time, you have to reset the entire watch. The expensive way, the way Rolex and Omega and Tudor do it, is called a true or flyer GMT. Your main local hour hand jumps independently, 1 hour at a time. You land in a new country, you pull the crown, you click the hour hand to local time, and you are done in 3 seconds while the watch keeps running. That is the complication that used to live only in watches costing $3,000 and up. The Hyperion runs a Japanese movement, the Miyota 9075, which is a true flyer GMT. Same functional behavior as the Rolex GMT Master. The independently jumping local hour hand, the entire point of the complication. In a watch you can buy for the price of a decent phone. And Laurier did not just drop the movement into a plain case. The Hyperion is a proper vintage-styled travel watch, 39mm, a domed crystal, a red and blue bezel, gilt accents. It looks like a 1960s pilot's GMT because that is exactly what it is imitating, and it does it well. This is the first of 3 watches running that same Miyota flyer movement. And I put them back to back on purpose, because watching 3 brands attack the same problem tells you more than any single review can. The Laurier is the vintage one. Next up is the tool watch version, and the value math on it is almost rude. Number 5. The Traska Venturer GMT, right around $700 to $750. And a quick honest note, you will see it listed close to $780 in some places, but current pricing sits nearer $720, so do not overpay. Same true flyer GMT heart as the Laurier, the Miyota 9075, so the headline feature is identical. The independently jumping local hour hand, the real traveler's function, the thing that used to cost $3,000. But Traska is a different kind of brand, and this is where you see what an extra $100 buys you in this corner of the market. Traska's whole identity is durability. They harden their steel cases so they resist the scratches a normal watch picks up, just living in your pocket next to your keys. The Venturer gets a box sapphire crystal, 150 meters of water resistance, and a tool-less micro-adjust clasp so you can dial in the fit on a hot day without a screwdriver. And here's the detail that tells you the brand is serious. Miyota does not hand this movement to just anyone. There is a selection process. Citizen, which owns Miyota, wants these calibers going into watches that are actually built well, and Traska was one of the first micro-brands trusted with it. For context, the very first micro-brand flyer GMT using this movement was the Jack Mason, and it launched at $1,000. Traska came in cheaper than that and added the hardened case on top. That vote of confidence and that value is worth paying attention to. Traska also regulates the movement in-house, in 4 positions, which tightens the accuracy well past the factory numbers. Out of the box, a lot of owners see it running within about 10 seconds a day, which for a sub-$800 automatic is very good. So the Laurier sells you the vintage romance, and the Traska sells you the tool watch that will still look new in 5 years. Same complication, different philosophy, both a fraction of the Swiss price. There is one more 907 5-watch, and is the most expensive of the 3, but it adds 2 things the other 2 do not have, and it is assembled somewhere you would not expect. Number 6. The Vaer G5 Meridian GMT, about $935. By now you know the movement. Miyota 9075, Vaer GMT, the jumping local hour hand. So let me tell you what the extra money over the Laurier and the Traska actually buys, because Vaer made some specific choices. First, water resistance. The G5 is rated to 200 meters, which makes it a legitimate dive-capable GMT. A lot of travel watches are not built to go underwater seriously. This one is. Screw-down crown, the whole package. Second, and this is the one people do not expect, it is assembled in the United States. Vaer is a Los Angeles brand, and they do final assembly and regulation in America, which is almost unheard of at this price. They regulate it to about 5 seconds fast to 15 seconds slow per day, tighter than the factory spec. You also get a box sapphire crystal, a bezel in ceramic or aluminum, depending on the version, and heavy applications of that old radium-colored lume that glows like a road flare. Flip it over, and there is an exhibition case back showing the movement decorated with Côtes de Genève striping, which is a nice bit of finishing you do not usually see at this money. Reviewers have called the G5 one of the best executed steel cases you can get for under $1,000. And that is not marketing. That is people who handle watches for a living. Now let me zoom out, because these three watches together make a point bigger than any one of them. As one reviewer put it, the Flyer GMT complication is usually reserved for watches costing $3,000 and up. That was simply a fact of the hobby. Then Miyota quietly released this one movement, and 3 independent brands turned it into a vintage watch, a tool watch, and an American-assembled dive watch, all under $1,000. That is not a small thing. That is an entire luxury complication getting democratized in real time. We are about to leave movements behind and talk about the actual material your watch is made of. And the next one is harder than the metal in a Rolex. Segment 3. Case materials, titanium, and ceramic. These are the materials the marketing teams at the big Swiss houses love, because they are exotic, they are expensive to machine, and they let a brand add a zero to the price. Here is how you get them without the zero. Number 7. The Formex Field in titanium, right around $900 to $1,000. And this is the one I would bet money surprises you. Titanium is the obvious luxury flex. It is lighter than steel, it is hypoallergenic, it does not rust. Omega, Panerai, and the rest will happily sell you a titanium sports watch for several $1,000s. But raw titanium has a dirty secret. It is soft. It scratches if you look at it wrong. Standard titanium sits around 145 on the Vickers hardness scale, which is actually softer than steel. Formex fixed that, and the number is hard to believe. They take grade 2 titanium and run it through a hardening treatment that takes the surface from 145 Vickers up to about 900 Vickers. Let me give you the comparison that matters. The stainless steel in a Rolex Submariner sits around 200 Vickers. This roughly $1,000 Swiss microbrand watch has a case surface close to 5 times harder to scratch than a Rolex. It is also nearly 3 times harder than the premium grade 5 titanium the expensive brands brag about. So you get everything titanium is famous for. The feathery weight on the wrist, the hypoallergenic comfort, the corrosion resistance. And then you get the one thing titanium normally cannot give you, which is real scratch resistance, at a level the luxury houses do not match. One reviewer called it the performance of a Richard Mille without the Rob Me neon sign, and that is about right. It is a proper Swiss watch too. Sellita automatic inside, sapphire crystal, 150 meters of water resistance, a matte sand-blasted finish that hides wear even better. 54 grams on the wrist. You will forget you are wearing it. The honest trade-off is that the hardening is a surface treatment, so a deep enough gouge can still get under it. And the matte finish is not for everyone. But as a daily beater that shrugs off the desk diving and the key scratches that wreck normal watches, nothing at this price is built this tough. And if you thought hardened titanium was the exotic material trick, wait until you see what the next one is made of, because that material normally does not show up under $5,000. quick pause. If this is the kind of breakdown you want more of, hit subscribe. I go through watches like this every week. No hype, no brochure language, just what actually earns the money. That is the only thing I'm going to ask you for. Now, that material I mentioned. Number 8, the Earthen Summit, a fully ceramic watch at $899. Ceramic is the material that, until basically now, told you a watch was expensive. Not stainless steel expensive, seriously expensive. A ceramic rado, an Omega with a ceramic case, a Hublot, an IWC in ceramic. These are $5,000 watches and up. And there is a reason. Ceramic is a nightmare to work with. It is not machined like metal, it is formed and fired and then ground with diamond tooling, and it cracks if you get it wrong. That difficulty is baked into the price. What ceramic gives you in return is close to scratch-proof. Not scratch-resistant, close to actually scratch-proof. You can drag a key across a ceramic case and it will not leave a mark, because ceramic is dramatically harder than steel. It also never fades, never corrodes, and stays comfortable against the skin in a way metal does not. Earthen is a brand whose entire mission is to democratize that material. The Summit is a genuine full ceramic case, black or white, and it comes in at $899. To put that in context, one reviewer noted that before the Summit arrived, the cheapest full ceramic watch he knew of cost close to 4 times as much. This is, as far as anyone can tell, the most affordable full ceramic watch in the world. Inside is a reliable Miyota automatic. It comes with 2 interchangeable straps, a sailcloth rubber and a nylon, and the design leans on a clean, vintage pilot look. It is 38 millimeters, so it wears modern and easy, and the early runs were limited batches that sold out fast, which tells you the market agreed with the pricing. This is not high horology, and the brand says so itself. It is a young company using a smart supply chain to hand you a $5,000 material for well under $1,000. The honest caveat with any ceramic watch is that hardness and toughness are not the same thing. Ceramic resists scratches better than anything, but if you smash it hard against concrete, it can chip or crack where steel would just dent. Respect that, and it will outlast everything you own, cosmetically. Next, we close out materials with the one that gives you titanium, a dive watch, and light-powered convenience for the price of a nice pair of shoes. Number 9. The Citizen Promaster dive watch in super titanium, and this one lands around $300 to $400. We already talked about titanium being the lightweight luxury metal, and about Omega selling it to you for several thousand. Citizen was actually the first company in the world to make a commercial titanium watch back in 1970, so they have had half a century to figure it out. And what they figured out is called super titanium. Super titanium is Citizen's own hardened titanium. They take titanium, which is already light and hypoallergenic, and they apply a surface treatment they call Duratect that makes it, in Citizen's own words, at least 5 times harder than stainless steel. Some of the darker coated versions get up past 2000 on the Vickers scale, which is flat out extreme. So, just like the Formex, you are getting titanium that resists scratches instead of collecting them. Only here it is coming from the company that invented the titanium watch in the first place. But this one is a proper dive watch. It is certified to the International Dive Standard, water-resistant to 200 meters, with a screw-down crown and a locking bezel. And it runs on Eco Drive, which is Citizen's light-powered movement. Any light sunlight or a lamp charges it, and it runs for months in the dark. You never open the case, you never change a battery, you never think about it. Stack that up. An Omega Seamaster in titanium is a several $1,000 watch. This gives you hardened titanium, a real certified 200-meter dive rating, and a movement you never service for a battery, for $300 to $400. And on scratch resistance specifically, it is arguably tougher than the Omega it is undercutting. The trade-offs are fair. A lot of these Promasters run big and chunky, 46 millimeters and up. And the base models use mineral crystal rather than sapphire, so know your wrist and know your reference. But as a grab-and-go titanium tool watch that you practically cannot hurt, the value is almost unreasonable. That is materials. Now we get into the part that separates the watch nerds from everyone else. The movements. And the first one keeps time better than a watch costing 20 times as much. Segment 4. The movements. This is the engineering that hides where you cannot see it, which is exactly why the big brands can charge for it and get away with it. Anti-magnetic technology, absurd accuracy, marathon power reserves. 3 watches that give you the guts without the badge. Number 10. The Citizen Chronomaster, sometimes sold as the Citizen, and it runs about $1,100 to $1,300. This is the accuracy king, and I need to set the stakes correctly because even people who like watches undersell this one. The gold standard for mechanical accuracy is a Swiss chronometer, certified by an outfit called COSC. To earn that certificate, a mechanical watch has to keep time to within about 4 to 6 seconds a day. That is the benchmark that lets Rolex and Omega charge what they charge. The Citizen Chronomaster uses a high-accuracy quartz movement, the A660, rated to within 5 seconds a year. Read that again slowly. Not 5 seconds a day, 5 seconds a year. This watch is more accurate over an entire year than a certified Swiss chronometer is allowed to be in a single day. Owners on watch forums have stories about noticing when scientists add a leap second to world time, because their Citizen is suddenly a whole second off and nothing else could explain it. And it is not a plasticky quartz shell around that movement. It typically comes in a hardened Duratect titanium case with a sapphire crystal and a perpetual calendar that knows the length of every month and will not need a date correction until the year 2100. It looks deliberately like a plain, understated dress watch. That is the joke. It is the ultimate quiet flex. Nobody around you has any idea it is one of the most accurate watches on Earth. Now, the watch snob objection is real, so let me address it. It is quartz. To a certain kind of collector, a battery movement has no soul, no craft, and they will never respect it, no matter how accurate it is. Fine. That is a values argument, not a performance argument. If what you want is a watch that is simply correct, every single day for years with a perpetual calendar you never touch, almost nothing at any price does the core job better, and this one costs less than most people's phones. The next watch swings back to mechanical, and it borrows a piece of technology straight out of the Swiss luxury playbook. Number 11. The Longines Conquest 38. And I have to be straight with you on price because I have seen this one listed too cheap. At retail, it is around $2,000, sometimes a bit more. You can find it pre-owned or on the gray market closer to $1,500 or $1,600. But do not let anyone tell you it is a $1,300 watch new. It is the most expensive thing on this list. It is also still a bargain, and here is why. The feature is the balance spring. The balance spring, or hairspring, is the tiny coiled component that regulates the entire watch. For 100 years it was made of metal, which has one big weakness: magnetism. Your phone, your laptop, your fridge door, the magnetic clasp on your bag, all of it can magnetize a metal hairspring and throw your watch's accuracy completely off. The Longines Conquest 38 uses a hairspring made of silicon. Silicon simply does not respond to magnetism at all. So the watch shrugs off magnetic fields that would wreck an ordinary mechanical watch, rated to something like 10 times the industry standard for resistance. It also gives you a 72-hour power reserve, which is 3 full days. Now, why does this count as a Millionaire feature? Because silicon hairspring technology is the same anti-magnetic tech that Longines' corporate parent, the Swatch Group, puts into far pricier watches, including Omega. Omega built an entire premium movement line around silicon and magnetic resistance and charges several $1,000s for it. I want to be precise here because precision is the point. The Longines does not use Omega's coaxial escapement. That is a separate Omega thing. What it shares is the silicon anti-magnetic hairspring, the part that actually protects your accuracy in daily life. The movement itself, the caliber L888, is an upgraded ETA base that Longines finishes nicely and shows off through a sapphire caseback, with the words magnetic resistant engraved right around the edge in case you forget what you paid for. People call the Conquest 38 the affordable version of an Omega Aquaterra, and that is fair. Same sporty, elegant vibe, a truly anti-magnetic movement, finishing that looks like it costs double. For a third of the Omega price, you get the piece of the technology that matters day to day, which leaves one more watch, and it beats Rolex at something Rolex likes to brag about. Number 12. The Tissot PRX Powermatic 80, and depending on the version you're looking at, roughly $600 to $700, a bit more for special editions. We close on the one a lot of you already know, because it earns the spot. The PRX is a 1970s style integrated bracelet sports watch. The same design language as an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak or a Patek Philippe Nautilus, watches that now cost as much as a house deposit. That look alone is why it sells. But the Millionaire feature is not the look. It is inside. The Powermatic 80 movement has an 80-hour power reserve. 80 hours. Take the watch off Friday after work, leave it on the dresser all weekend, and it is still ticking and keeping time when you pick it up Monday morning. A typical automatic watch dies after about a day and a half. Here is the comparison that lands. A modern Rolex has a 70-hour power reserve, and Rolex is genuinely proud of that number. The Tissot gives you 80. This roughly $700 Swiss watchout lasts a $10,000 Rolex on a single wind. Not matches it, beats it, and there is a bonus feature stacked on top. The Powermatic 80 uses a hairspring made of Nevacron, a titanium-based alloy that, like the silicon in the Longines, resists magnetism far better than an old-fashioned metal spring. So you get the marathon reserve and real anti-magnetic protection, wrapped in a case that apes a watch worth 30 times as much, all for the price of a decent pair of shoes. The honest trade-offs. That long reserve is achieved by slowing the movement down so the second's hand sweep is a touch less silky than a higher beat watch. And the bracelet on the early models did not have easy on the fly sizing. Small prices to pay. For a real Swiss automatic with a display back, a sapphire crystal, that iconic case, and a movement that outlasts a Rolex on one wind. There is a reason this watch started a whole trend, and that is the list. So here is the through line, and it is the whole reason this list exists. Every one of these features, the column wheel, the true GMT, the hardened titanium, the ceramic, the silicon hairspring, the 80-hour reserve used to be a wall. A thing that told you a watch was expensive, and one by one, better engineering and hungrier brands have knocked those walls down, until the feature and the price finally came apart. None of these are perfect, and I told you where each one gives something up, because that is the deal on this channel. But if anyone ever told you that you need to spend Rolex money to get a real horological feature on your wrist, now you know better. Tell me in the comments which one you would actually wear.